Yeah, boys and girls, monthly book read. I'm so excited to be back in the classroom on the smartboard. I'm going to jump right in here. Quick update. All right. Quick Ruby. Dolly's probably
What you doing, Rubes?
on porch while I'm doing this.
Want to get the stick?
Dolly always likes to rest. And Ruby always likes hunting for sticks. I'll tell you, she's not always getting the stick I throw, but she has enthusiasm nonetheless. And then I have to show you this other guest at my house. Here we go. What animal? You got it. Wild turkey. I sometimes see a pack of them at my house on the lawn, and I keep my distance. Always keep your distance from wild turkeys. I love hearing the gobble, gobble, gobble. Glad I got it on film. So yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that. All right, I'm going to get right into the book. So in a second, you'll see me on the other screen for the monthly book read. All right, boys and girls, let's get into this book. Ada Twist, Scientist. I just read it once before and I loved it. So I'm going to get us started here. I love the message here. Ada Marie said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break, with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound and sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Conked out. Anybody was conked out? Fell asleep, right? You see her sleeping there? That's conked out. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak, as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly, young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. Love the illustrations in this book, by the way. That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, "Why?" Anybody know the name of that clock? That clock has a fancy name. It's not a regular clock that she's on top of. Did anybody say grandfather clock? I used to have one of these in my house growing up. They're not as common anymore. So she's on top of the grandfather clock. Let's keep going. Why does it tick and why does it tock? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? She started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Why, what, how, when, why? Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Looks like Ada's asking lots of questions, right? What does it do? Why won't it? How can I find out? Looks like her parents are holding up some pictures here and her brother. Anybody know what these pictures are? Right? Do you see the planets there? Saturn and Jupiter and Earth. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Poor Miss Greer, right? I know you have your own Miss Greer there in class, right? Who's Miss Greer? Your teacher, right? Look at Miss Greer. She's not happy with what looks like to be exploding soda bottles and things in class. Don't get any ideas, boys and girls. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie," said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell? And does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start where she ought to begin, a mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. One word in there I want to just ask about: pungent aroma. Pungent. Guesses? What do we think pungent means? Aroma, right? So it's like a strong smell. Let's keep going. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and the good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true: the terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. All right, I gotta laugh. Mrs. Murphy always teases me when I make corned beef and cabbage. The cabbage is stinky, there's no doubt about it. The next day's even worse, so I can relate. Hypothesis. That's a big word for our younger students. An educated guess, right? That's a hypothesis. So that's Ada taking guesses. Then zowie, the stink struck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. Oh, the poor little kitty. She sprayed it with cologne and perfume, and then it looks like she started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop! What is she doing here?" Yeah, that's not a great idea. Putting the cat into the washing machine, I don't think her parents are to be blamed for yelling at her there. Not a good idea, Ada. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now, by the time we count 3. "Enough," said her mother. "That's it," said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. "Why?" Ada questioned. Her mother said, "No." "What?" Ada queried. Her father said, "Go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think." She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked 2. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down, and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was the great thinking hall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, "We'll figure it out." Wow, look at what Ada did with this wall. It looks like she turned the wall into her own classroom, right? Her own smart board or dry erase board with all of her different writings and thinkings, right? Amazing. And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and heart that is true. They remade the world, and they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asked lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. If you look at this this particular slide. I see lots of books and different opportunities for Ada to explore science. I see different science equipment. So now her parents are embracing Ada and giving her opportunities to learn. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do? But learn all she can with her friends in grade 2. Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question. And someday, who knows? Look at all of her classmates getting in on the experiment, right? They're smelling garlic and hot dogs and stinky cheese. I love it. That's the best way to be a scientist, right? Is to investigate and explore. The end. Love this book, and I love the message. So the message, right, is embrace your passions and go all in on what interests you. I'll leave you with 2 questions, boys and girls, as I hang up. One, what's something about the world that you've always wanted to know or explore and figure out, right? So something almost like what a young scientist thought. What's something you want to know about in the world? And then 2 is, what's something that was hard that you tried to tackle, you tried to complete, and even though it was tough, you persisted and you figured it out. You worked hard and you accomplished the goal. So think about that, right? Something about the world you're interested in, curious, and then something that you've tried and had success with after working really hard. All right, boys and girls, always great to see you, or you to see me in this case, and I'll see you soon in the buildings. Take care.